Anyway, Kyle, you were telling us all about
why is the Ukraine thing good? I thought you wouldn't like it and that Trump is pretty much surrendering. But tell me your view of it.
No. Trump says that he'll continue funding if Ukraine gives him $500 billion of rare earth minerals.
Okay, don't hate that.
And he called Putin and asked Putin if he was ready to end the war. And Putin said, yes, I'm ready to negotiate. And they're like, why didn't you call Zelensky first? And he's like, because I already spoke to Zelensky and he told me he's ready to negotiate. Oh, do you know? Don't you know? What did you agree to? What did you agree to? And he's like, I didn't agree to anything. We were talking about releasing
right?
Mr. Fogel.
He already said Ukraine will never go in NATO. He said Ukraine will never return to the old borders. Like, even if that's true, it seems like he's giving up bargaining chips. Like he started off by negotiating against himself.
This was like in the context of what's happened, like Ukraine is losing, like they've lost, like they don't have a good negotiation standpoint. Like Russia is going to win in the long run. Ukraine can't keep it up. And so like when you enter the negotiation table from a state of like pretty severe weakness, like Ukraine would have to at this point, like they're not going to get what they want. Like
Ukraine's taking land.
I mean, they're not, it doesn't seem to be anything significant. It seems like they've lost a lot more than they've gained by a huge amount.
Overall, they have.
Yeah.
So Ukraine's mindset here with them capturing the Russian land in the north is they want to exchange. They want to be able to exchange that Russian land for some of their old land. I think that the deal is that Russia's not even open to negotiations if Ukraine membership in NATO is part of the negotiation. And God, can you blame them? Like, look, I'm red, white, and blue over here, rock, flag, eagle boys. You know, I hate the communists, and if that meteor
red, white, and blue, you fucking Russian dude.
If that fucking white, and blue, and if that meteor hit Moscow, I'd probably cheer, like probably do a lot of good for the world. That being said, can you blame them for not wanting Ukraine to become NATO and for all sorts of fucking military equipment to be wheeled in there by the NATO apparatus, all sorts of missile defense and nukes? Like imagine the whole point of remember the Cuban Missile Crisis when we were ready to go to World War III because 90 miles off our coast in Cuba, there were nuclear missiles. It's the same fucking thing that we're pushing in on them. And just to be fair, again, the whole reason they put those missiles in Cuba is because we had missiles in Turkey and JFK went, hey, we'll move the missiles in Turkey. Just don't tell anybody. And Rezhnov or whoever the fuck it was like, okay, I won't tell anybody. I'll publicly take the L for world peace. And that's how the Cuban Missile Crisis ended. Both sides gave up something for world peace and when we were on the precipice. And that's what's going to happen here. You can't allow them in NATO because of what NATO means. NATO means that attack on one is attack on many, although the verbiage on how much or when or if you have to step in and assist your NATO allies is very vague. You can basically not show up if you want. That being said, the whole idea of just us putting our nukes there to potentially first strike Russia, they're never going to allow that. It's a non-starter, and I don't blame them. We agreed to that when they gave up their nukes back in the day, right? And Russia went back on their word. Ukraine had tons of nukes. They gave them up, and in exchange, Russia was never going to bother them again, and that didn't work out. I think Ukraine should probably have their own nukes, but not be in NATO. That's what I would vote for. That would be my deal.
Yeah,
I want their minerals too because they owe us a lot of money.
Russia took Crimea after Ukraine was left defenseless, and this deal seems to be, hey, let's end this war, and we'll keep Ukraine defenseless. And it's like this is setting up Ukraine, if it goes the way that they're talking about it going, right? Never get in NATO, and not have nukes. It's just Russia licking their wounds and attacking again 5 years from now, like they did last time.
Yeah, you have to figure out a way around that, and I think that's the nukes. To me, if you gave Ukraine nuclear weapons, I think that's their shield for future invasion. But I wouldn't want them in
those
NATO.
are
I don't
good
want to.
shield. Yeah, you can't. You're right though. Like the NATO thing is antagonistic, and like if you're Putin, you rightfully see that as a threat to your national security, exactly as we did with Cuba having nukes there. And so, like, they're not going to move forward with that.
Wait a minute. The NATO thing being antagonistic doesn't tell the story of Russia already invaded and took Crimea, right? They didn't take Crimea because they were talking about NATO. They took Crimea because, fuck you, we want warm water ports, right?
Yeah.
And
That's how great powers operate, though.
Now Ukraine is like, oh my gosh, these guys invade us. We need to join NATO. And they're like, oh, no excuse. Now we want the rest of you. And it's like, oh, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Russia's just coming no matter what. And that's how great powers operate. Well, fuck great powers. Like, they've got some great friends. They're doing so pretty well lately. We'll see how this, I don't know. They're giving up everything and just setting up Russia for success on their subsequent invasion.
They're just like, if the interest of it is ending the war and all the meat grinder of people dying, then like Ukraine has to come to the table, and so does Russia. My point about the great powers thing is like the rules that Ukraine and Italy and Lebanon, like they don't play by the same rules as the US and China and Russia. Like we are the great powers globally. And so like you have to tiptoe around that sometimes. And so the way the war has been going, and this was like a US aid thing. Like it was coming out that we were funding huge amounts of media in Eastern Europe in particular to convince Americans that Ukraine was winning for a long time. How long did you hear in the news? For like multiple years, like Ukraine's on the cusp of victory. Ukraine's about to win. Russia's depleted. Russia, the country who manufactures all these fucking tanks and bullets and has these giant mines of precious metals. Yeah, they're running out. They'll be out in 2 weeks. Oh, that didn't happen. Another month. Like we've been fibbed through a lot of these media that we funded in a circuitous way into continuing this when they were just lying to our face in a lot of ways. Like Zelensky probably knew, like if he's a smart guy, I would guess he knows there's no chance. There's a 0% chance. And a lot of people said this from the start that Ukraine is going to win a war with Russia without American boots actively involved. The only way Ukraine wins is with American boots on the ground. There's no other way. Like they're not going to win. They're not going to win a protracted war against Russia.
Right? In the same way that Afghanistan can't beat America or Iraq can't beat America.
Well, we gave up. Like we just left. Like
that's how big powers operate.
The point is victory conditions. Like I like to go back to Civilization. Civilization 7 sucks, by the way. You have win conditions.
I have seen people complaining.
It's like if you own this many fucking countries, then you win. If you have this much money, then you win. If you have this much cultural influence, then you win. We never do that in our wars. George H.W. Bush did that. Our goal is to expel Saddam Hussein from Kuwait and destroy the fighting power of the Iraqi military. Did that in a week, raised the victory flag, and went fucking home for the most part. That's a win. You have to tell us what a win is and then do the thing and then fucking leave. We hang around after the crime. We like knock over a liquor store and then go jerk off in the parking lot. We got the money.
For 20 years.
Yeah, we got the money. We got the bag full of money. The clerk's on the ground a little dizzy, and we even grabbed a handle of Tito's on the way out the back door. But we just couldn't take it. We couldn't own our victory and raise the flag. We had to masturbate in the parking lot to really own this victory. And wouldn't you know it, the clerk's buddy showed up and whooped our ass in the parking lot. That happens every fucking time. Why didn't we leave Afghanistan as soon as Osama bin Laden was gone and the Taliban was decimated? Why don't we say, he's flown the coop. We've expelled Osama bin Laden from the nation of Afghanistan.
So you're making a case that it's really difficult to take over another country and hold it.
It is. Depending on the situation.
It depends on the country, right? Like Afghanistan's not a centralized country in the same way that like Russia is.
Iraq is.
Well, we were dealing with an insurgency in Iraq. We were dealing with fighters from all over the Middle East coming in. We weren't really fighting that many Iraqis in the later years, I don't think. But that was, why didn't we just leave? Like once we killed Saddam, why didn't we just leave and let the cards fall where they may?
I guess we thought we'd be able to hold another country, but that's really hard.
We wanted to put our puppet government in and make them be like Iraqi Americans with our. Like, that's why I think you're 20. That's why I think 20 million on Sesame Street's nonsense, because we spent $2 trillion already trying to win hearts and minds. It didn't fucking work because it's a different culture than ours, and they're never going to be like us.
I hope the Ukraine shit actually ends, because it's just nothing beneficial is going to happen. Like if there was a magic wand, if I could wave a magic wand and make like Ukraine push Russia back and get their shit back, it'd be like, yeah, I'll wave the wand, but that's not going to happen. Like Russia's not going to give that up for the reason Kyle laid out. Like they can't abide our military bases with nukes in Ukraine. Like they're not going to.
They're pretty worried Ukraine's going to take over Russia, I guess.
No, they're worried that nukes. Like we have nukes. We have like American nukes and military bases are in Ukraine on the border of Russia. Like that's why Putin made such a huge to-do about NATO membership with Ukraine, because Putin's also not a retard. He knows that America is NATO. Like
this idea that like Russia did it because of the NATO thing kind of forgets that Russia already did it in Crimea a few years earlier. It's hard to accept that as the rationalization when they're like, yeah, I know we do it whether it happens or not.